Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of our midweek thoughts at Cornerstone. And as you'll know, in these thoughts, we're really focusing in on verse 13 of 2 Chronicles chapter 7, which we feel as a church is really relevant for us right now in this season. And the first part of this passage, which I'll be looking at today, is if my people who are called by my name. If my people who are called by my name. And what I really want to drill into is this idea of God's name. If I was to ask you, what is God's name? What is God called? On a very basic level, that sounds like a pretty stupid question. And God's name is God. It's the name in which you've just used to describe him. God's name is God. But if I was to ask you what's my name, you'd probably say Sam. That's how most people know me. And you'd be correct in saying that. But at the same time, there are situations in which I may feel a bit more formal. Maybe if I'm going for a job or just want to come across a bit smarter than I am, then I might say, actually, my name's Samuel. So if I'm being a bit more serious, it might be Samuel. Generally, it's Sam. If I'm in a silly mood, Sammy has happened a few times. Sammy Sam. There's even been occasions where Sammy Sam has actually happened. So the real question is, which one of those is really me? Am I Samuel? Am I Sam? Am I Sammy Sam? Which one is actually me? Well, it's not really the question to ask because they're all me. I'm all of those people, but at different occasions I'll show different aspects of my character. But they're all still me. So when we come back to the question of who is God, when we just call him God and use that term, and a lot of the time overuse that term to the point where for a lot of people the term God has very little meaning in itself. When we actually look into the Old Testament and the original Hebrew, they had quite a few words that they used to describe God as different names for him. So what I want us to do is to look at 3 of the names that we use in the Old Testament that I think really speak to us now. And then lastly, I want to finish up by talking a little bit about God's character and how we can trust him in this time. So first of all, Yahweh Shammah, the God who is present. This comes from Genesis 28:15. It's a promise that God makes to Jacob in a dream at Bethel, where he says, I'm with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I'll bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I've promised you. That's Yahweh Shammah. And for a lot of us, we feel like God is not present. We feel like he's not with us, and actually he's not here. But actually this name for him gives us hope that actually he is, and he is actually with us in this time, in this situation, whether it's a great time for us, bringing new opportunities, or whether it's really difficult and bringing a lot of new challenges as well. Yahweh Shammah, the Lord who is present. Then we have Yahweh Shalom, the Lord is peace. After God speaks to Gideon in the book of Judges, Gideon builds an altar saying, the Lord is peace. I think a lot of people are needing peace right now. A lot of people are feeling restless, feeling disturbed and distressed. And actually knowing that God is a God of peace, and as one who is peace can also bring peace to us as well. Should be a comforting thought. So Yahweh Shalom, the Lord is peace. We've got Yahweh Shammah, the Lord is present. Yahweh Shalom, the Lord is peace. And then lastly, my personal favourite is El Roi, which is the one who sees, okay? The one who sees. And this comes from, again, the book of Genesis, when Hagar is kind of disregarded, and God blesses her with a son as he sees her distress. And she says, you are the God who sees me. You're the God who sees me. And again, a lot of us don't feel like God sees us. He doesn't see our struggles or our pain or what we're going through at the moment. But actually, again, in this verse and in this name for God, we see that God sees. So Yahweh Shammah, God is present. Yahweh Shalom, God is peace. And El Roi, God sees us. And then those 3 are real encouragements for us today to know that they're all true of what God is doing in our lives right now. And as much as they all display aspects of the character of God, sometimes we feel like we need more than that to trust him. So Hannah mentioned a little bit briefly last week about this whole idea of what is God doing in this time? Did God cause this, everything that's going on? Maybe he didn't cause it, but he's using it for our good. So actually that's not a bad thing. But even if he let it happen, then he's the one in charge. So surely that's just as bad. And we have this real need to be in control and to know why what's going on is going on. What's the real reason behind it? Which I think is a fascinating insight into the way that we think and the needs that we have. We need to know what's going on. But actually, I think this time, more than anything, is sometimes revealing a lack of faith that we can have in God himself. And not in his plans, because I don't think we ever really need to know God's plans. I think for the most part, we'll never truly understand God's plans, even if he tries to explain it to us. I think they're greater than we ourselves can comprehend. But actually, it's a real time of not trusting in God's plans, but trusting in God himself. And so why I focused on God's character in those three names is that actually that's what we can trust in. We can never learn God's plans. He's not always going to tell us everything. Like I said, because we can't always understand it. But we can continue to get to know God better, even if we can't fully understand his plans. And I heard an analogy the other day, and essentially I want you to imagine this. So say you're sat at home, which I'm sure you are now, and you get a knock at the door, and it's your best friend, and you trust them. You trust them with your life. You respect their honesty and their integrity, and you'd do anything for them, and you know that they would do the same for you. If they knock at your door and they say, come to me, and they say, Sam, I need to borrow your car keys. I just need to borrow them now. I don't have time to explain. I don't have time to go through the whole plan of what I need to do with them, but just trust me, I need them right now. What are you going to do? Well, I would say if you really trust that person, you'd give your keys to them. You'd give them your car. Because you trust them, and you know their character, and you know that whatever they're going to do, whatever their plan is, that actually it's going to be a good one, and it's going to be one that is necessary and requires what you need to give to it. And in the same way, we don't need to know God's plans. Actually, when we know God, we can trust in his character, trust in who he is, and trust that whatever he's doing in this time, that is ultimately through his own wisdom and through his own purposes, in order to bring those to glory in him. So that's to be a little encouragement for you. Hopefully that got you thinking as part of our thought for this week. And tune in again next week for the next thought in the passage of 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 7. See you then. God bless.